and gentlemen, it's time for Big Wil Spotlight. We're going to discuss movies the Oscars don't care about. We're going to discuss movies that you care about. So go ahead, get yourself something to eat. Get yourself something to drink. Sit back and relax with your popcorn and your date as we go to Big Wil Spotlight with your hosts, Big Wil, Dr. Quack, and the important one, Mr. Mayhem.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Big Wil Spotlight. I'm your host, Big Wil.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. It's time for part 2 of the Stephen King discussion.
Yes, it is. We had to take a little bit of a break. Some production things, they still won't let Quack in the room. How can you have horror movies without your horror expert?
Well, we have other horror experts instead.
All right.
So, unfortunately, Rob Bell is not able to join us on this show. Again, technical issues, technical difficulties. But replacing the European expert here of horror, Ms. Eno.
Hello.
Hello.
And joining us here, an American expert at giving horror because he's a former Marine, the Tin Man.
Hey.
I wasn't asleep, I promise I wasn't asleep. Okay. Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
I am here. I am here, and I am actually prepared today because for the stuff that I don't know, I'm actually not going to be BSing my way through it. I have everything I need right here in front of me.
All right.
So I can actually sound intelligent this time.
There you go.
Just paint him like one of your 10-year-olds.
Until you make it, okay?
Me. Shut up.
All right,
Why don't you show me how? You're good at shutting your
thank you for
mouth.
stepping in for Rob Bell and being the European expert here on the movie scene. So, Stephen King movies. What's your thoughts on those movies? Standing by. So, should be right back. So, Jeff, what's your thoughts on Stephen King movies?
As a young man growing up, especially living with a single mom that liked to pop Ritalin down my throat for 12 years straight, it was really easy to keep me busy with R.L. Stine books. I mean, we're talking small books, 80 to 90 pages at most, just great stuff. And then to read those during the day and then watch Stephen King movies at night. I don't think I've ever actually read a Stephen King book. I've just seen movies based on those adaptations. And I thought it was probably like 18 or 19 before I realized that he makes various cameos in his movies. And I didn't know it until later on. And then I started watching them just to find him in the movies. And when I finally did read the one Stephen King book, and then later it did become a movie, I had to go back and read the book again because there was a lot of stuff that got left out or a lot of small details that they didn't put in there. And sometimes the endings are different. So there's some that say that the books are better, some that say the movies are better. I think the man's a genius in my mind. Like, I mean, he's had some movies or books that have been okay. He's been some that are outstanding. And there's even been some I didn't even know Stephen King had anything to do with. I mean, the man's a genius in my mind.
That's true. And welcome to the show, The Purge.
What up? What up?
All right. So, yeah, that's a good thing to bring up that Tin Man mentioned about Stephen King being a genius. A lot of people don't realize he did books as Richard Bachman.
That was his pen name before Stephen King became the household name, yes. And, I mean, I believe Desperation was one of those books.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a lot of stuff out there. I mean, most people don't realize. You got to take movies for what they are. They're the cliff notes of the books is what it just boils down to. I mean,
for the most part.
because I mean, for me, with The Stand, with going through the book, the character that kind of caught your interest, besides the true like main people of it, Trash Can Man. I mean, I enjoyed his kind of background and stuff like that, but of course, for the mini series, you just couldn't have that much background on every single person.
That's true, because there's about 100 pages that just can make there to Las Vegas.
Very much so. Then a lot of people don't even know that Maximum Overdrive actually is one of his books. He actually took the time to. He was the director for it. It was the only movie he actually directed. Oh, I can't. I won't go that far. As far as I know, it's the only one that he was the director.
Yeah.
And I would really love if they were to take that movie and remake that one with today's CG and everything like that. Make it go towards what the book was. I mean, I understand he was the director. He had all the input of how that movie was, everything like that.
Right.
So, hey.
All right. So, Purge, how are you with Stephen King books? I know you normally don't see a lot of those kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen King is really an important role for the horror scene. I saw some of those movies, but the older one. The problem here is it don't capable with the newer ones here because of the CGI. Sometimes the CGI can suck really hard. And when I speak about horror movies, most of the producers are trying to get on the tip of Stephen King's, I would say Stephen King's milestone there, but apparently they can't. Recent topic here is Truth or Dare, a horror movie about this childish game here. I was in the cinema by that, and it totally sucked. It totally sucked. And that's why never ever in the life can somebody grab on the milestone of Stephen King there.
That's true. And something else that a lot of people don't realize about Stephen King also has his own production company. It's called Castle Rock Entertainment. A lot of people, he's footed a lot of people's movies.
He's the producer on a lot of shows that don't have anything to do with any of his books.
Yes, but he does a lot to help develop directors, develop story writers. And he does that through Castle Rock Entertainment. So this question here, Eno, we'll let you start this and work its way around. This came in. If you had to say, of the ones you've seen, what's the worst Stephen King movie?
All right. So I have no idea what this movie is called, but I remember seeing bits and pieces. I don't know if it's a movie or a show, but I know it was Stephen King's name was attached. But I remember when I was little, it freaked me out because there's this giant fucking what the fuck dog. But then when I watched it as an adult, no, it wasn't that one. I know for a fact it wasn't that one because this thing was like undefined four-legged animal. But whatever. Point is, after I watched it, it was pretty. The one with the car is pretty bad too.
Christine?
I don't know. I don't know any of them by name off the top of my head. My memory is that bad.
All righty. So, Jeff, your thoughts on what would be the worst?
I mean, I don't know what would be the worst exactly, but I think that I would have to say there's one in particular that I would say would be on that list, and I did not even know it was even a thing. But apparently, in 1996, there was a 40-minute film short involving Stephen King and Michael Jackson. It was called Michael Jackson's Ghost. Did not know this was a thing, had no idea it even existed. But basically, it's they're in this little village, and there's these children, or a child that gets scared by ghost stories told by someone named Maestro, who is played by Michael Jackson. And the mayor of this town, who is also played by Michael Jackson, leads a bunch of outraged villagers to the maestro's mansion, demanding he leave, and they challenge each other to ghost stories told in musical form. It's basically ghost stories with Michael Jackson singing and dancing. I don't know if that's scary or the worst Stephen King film ever. Have no idea if it existed, but apparently it is out there.
That almost ranks up there with the Christmas version of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, that we don't talk about the Star Wars Christmas special.
Christmas special.
That doesn't exist. Let's pretend it doesn't exist.
There you go. So, Purge, your thoughts on the worst, if you could think of one.
Yeah, I bought a little bit of it. I will go with the remake of it. The problem. Here's the problem. A, I hate remakes to the death. B, it was full of CGI crap, and I want to see weird action stuff there, weird horror stuff there, and see it didn't just catch me there. And when I was on my way to home, I saw a lot of people coming out of the It movie and must be like, "Hey, this is full of shit here," and yada yada yada. So I gotta go with the remake of It.
All right.
You're just upset that they used your hairline.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Uh-oh.
Oh no,
I need to watch the window, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
be careful,
otherwise
that's
your
the
sandwich is going to come through and throat you.
That's a Stephen King movie, The Window. What's your worst?
The Glory Hole, filmed by Stephen King in his senile old age.
people that we would talk about glory holes isn't on this show right now, so.
Glory holes are fun.
But no, I mean, to me, it had to have been like Silver Bullet for the worst one. I'm not gonna say. I mean, I can't really say it. There was a bad Stephen King movie. Okay.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, there is. Finish your thought.
Okay. You're probably gonna bring up the one that I would. Oh yeah, there you go. The freshest one in my mind though would end up being Silver Bullet, but it's just like I say, maybe it's my problem with Corey Haim movies.
Okay. Yeah. We got the European invasion again. Neil, welcome to the show. All right, so I'll finish it off. Come to you, Neil. My worst is the remake of The Shining. The Shining with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall was awesome. And Stephen King hated it so much, he totally redid it, trying to say it was closer to the book, and it was god awful. It had worse CGI than the 70s. That is the worst Stephen King book because he had nothing to do with the first one. He screwed up the second one.
I'm going to correct that. He said book. It was the movie he's talking about.
Yeah, the movie.
The Shining is the best-selling Stephen King book out there.
Yes, it is.
So,
all righty. And before we come to Neil, we're going to finish this thought off here. We're going to ask you, Neil, what's the worst Stephen King? Somebody decided to mention in Castle Rock was involved with Miscongeniality. That might be the worst Stephen King movie. And yeah, trying to say that Sandra Bullock is not attractive in the beauty contest, that's a pretty bad movie right there. Okay, Quack's here. So Neil, go ahead. Worst Stephen King movie.
Well, I'm biased on this because I'm actually a big Stephen King fan. But if I had to say the worst one, I would have to say Slimmer.
Ooh, that is a bad one too.
I think it's Thinner.
Thinner, yeah.
Yeah, Thinner. The one where Gypsy puts a curse on the bloke that run over. I think it was her son.
He ended up like killing part of her family. I don't remember if it was his son or grandson.
Yeah.
He accidentally hit one of them that ran out into the road, and it wasn't even his fault. Well, it technically was his fault, but he got away with it, so they put a curse on him, and he lost like buku weight. You know, I would have rather watched Thinner than I would have watched Lawnmower Man because it had nothing to do with lawns at all.
I think Sleepwalkers, the one that's never been remade, is probably as the worst as Sleepwalkers.
I think that the most interesting one, purely because it's based on reality, is Cujo.
All right. So, Doctor,
I was going to introduce Dr. Quack. Since they won't let him in the room, he actually had to come on.
Yeah. Well, it looks like he's hanging off the rafter outside there. He's literally hanging from the rafters.
Hi guys, I'm here.
So, Dr. Quack, what is the worst Stephen King movie?
See, a couple of them were mentioned, and I'm really kind of with Cujo in some respects. I mean, it's funny. I love the movie, but it's very realistic. It's very dark. And when they tried to remake it with Man's Best Friend, that version of it, it just really didn't do it justice.
True. The original Cujo was great. It was great.
Ask the question this way: with the pandemic here, a lot of people think The Stand has the possibility of being based upon real events. So, with the exception of The Stand, which one of Stephen King's books or movies is most likely to actually happen?
The Tommy Knocker.
Tommy knockers. No, I'm sorry. A bunch of aliens making me yank my teeth out. I don't see that really happening. That's more like a cult.
Yeah, Jeff.
No, I'd say Cujo.
Okay.
Because rabies is already around.
True.
And the film was based on a rabid St. Bernard.
True.
So that is the most likely to happen, is a rabid dog.
All righty.
I mean, it could be it because we already have a clown in office.
No, I don't know. If you really think about it, Stephen King, jumps on the whole point of supernatural, and psychological type stuff. So you got to think of stuff like Dreamcatcher and Secret Window and 1408. Those could really happen because, depending on what kind of drug someone's tweaking off of, those could be things that could actually happen. But in this day and age, with if you were to take a reality series and mix it with like American Ninja Warrior, Running Man could be a legit thing to actually happen.
That is exactly where my thoughts are going with the way that society is starting to go today. And again, no, this is not a political show. If you want to vote for me, go for it. Yeah, I think Running Man is probably the one that is going to be a foreseen thing. Cujo is kind of more, it's already happened. Rabid dog, people get bit and killed by dogs every year. It's.
I want the dog to win.
Yeah, but does any of them actually are infected with aquaphobia?
That I
So that's
don't know.
basically what the virus is. It is a reaction to water.
Well, rabies is called hydrophobia because you
Yeah, hydrophobia.
But yeah, I just firmly believe that with how society is going and everything like that, with just the poor, I don't want to call it the poor people either. It's just, I foresee
Yeah.
at some point in time,
I don't know if it
lower
is.
class is going to start, realizing, hey, there are 4 times as many people in this category than any other category out there. Hey, let's take over the world.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
don't know if it was Stephen King, but there was a film. I think it was made in the 70s about a bloke that took the White House basically and made it into some kind of cult.
Oh, so the president of the United States got it.
Yeah, it's every 4 years.
I mean, technically, if you think about it, my first marriage was almost like misery, but depending on what type of lifestyle you live, if you take away the idea of hallucinations and bad dreams, Gerald's game could actually be a real life situation.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff could actually happen. Oh, we're going to do this, and oh, the husband died in the middle of it, and you're so traumatized you start like freaking out. That could actually be something that happened. Children of the Corn
Yeah.
is not something that would happen in real life, because if I get lost on a back road and there's a bunch of kids around a cornfield and I hear Malachi, I'm going to shoot every one of them and drive away. That would not happen in real life.
There you go. Mine's a little more odd because I've got a little more of a scientific bent. I can almost see the Langoliers becoming real from the standpoint of the story is about that you can't travel back. Stephen King says you can't travel back in time because there are these creatures that eat time behind you, so you can't go backwards in time. But I can see with the way we're trying to figure out things like warp drive capabilities, how to travel forward and backward through time, that we create some of those time rifts that people accidentally fall into. I'm not saying in our lifetime, but I can see it happening as we delve deeper into the quantum physics world and less into the real world.
But then if you talk about scientifically, the human brain, we only use 5% of it. So, in all intents and purposes, if the human brain actually evolves, scanners is another one that could happen.
It's true. And Dr. Quack has asked this question: has anyone been to the hotel where The Shining was filmed? Yes, I have. It's in Colorado. I have been there.
I've driven past it, stopped in the parking lot, didn't actually go in.
It's got
That's it.
Yeah, there's a museum. You can get a little. It's called a wedding ring. Basically, a pop top from a can inside a little box. They call it a wedding ring. But there's things you can get there, so it's a nice place to go see. So, what for those of you that may have read Stephen King books, what book do you as or to be re-looked at?
Oh,
Yeah.
Slugs.
Slugs, the book Slugs.
I mean, personally, to me, I think they need to finish out the Dark Tower series.
That's what I was about to say.
I mean, they started it. They got one of the best actors of our time in it.
Do something. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
That'll,
I think in
that's
a
all.
sense,
Right.
like if you look at it, it's like I think a lot of times they try to stretch some of the Stephen King ideas. Like for example, how many Children of the Corn movies have there been?
well,
Too
only
many.
one is based off the book.
Well, I know,
The rest
but
of
but you think about
like
how
Dr.
many of them there have been, or sometimes they come back, or Firestarter, stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
there was an article, I can't remember which magazine it was in, but I remember reading the articles. They did them over so many issues. And it may have been GQ magazine, I can't remember, but it was over so many issues. They kept putting continuations of a story, and it was actually Stephen King and his son that collaborated on it, and it was Tall Grass, I think that's what the name of it was, and it essentially all it was. This lady, she was pregnant. Her and her brother, they heard like a child calling for help in this like tall grassy area, and they go in this grassy field to look for this child. And while they're in there, they get lost, and there's something evil inside that tall grass. And I think it was called uh, Through the Tall Grass or In the Tall Grass or something like that.
Yeah.
They did a movie at it on Netflix, and it was nothing nowhere near as great as what the story was. But it's like, how many more Stephen King things involve grass or corn or something of that area? Because thanks to Stephen King, I don't want to go into a cornfield. I don't want to drive near a cornfield. I don't like cornfields. I don't even eat corn on the cob. I don't even eat, cream of corn. And I hate for my grass to get 1 inch high. That's how much I hate tall grass. Thanks to Stephen King. If I get lost in a meadow of dandelions, I'm about to have a Stephen King moment. So, I mean,
Let's continue that. I was gonna say, let's continue that.
But there's
Bob.
one book that I haven't seen made into a film of his.
What's that?
Rats.
ooh,
Familiar with?
Rats.
Hmm.
What we said.
Do you say rats?
Yeah.
well, I mean, they made the film Willard. That's basically the same thing,
Unless
right?
I'm just thinking of maybe Creep Show or something like that, which he had something to do with.
No, but basically the book was about where
Well, into the coffins and stuff like that. I mean, one person was like buried alive, and
yeah, the book actually was about Russia bombing the UK with 5 nuclear bombs, and the rats get mutated
Teenage
into
Mutant Ninja
flesh-eating
Rats.
rats.
just not familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm
one.
not familiar with that one, but let's modify the question because Jeff brought up a good point about the fears caused by Stephen King. What do you think? Is anything that Stephen King has done that made you a little leery of something in some way, or someone who was influenced by it?
Funny enough, there was a experience with it.
Clowns. A lot of people have clown fears because of Tim Curry, the
No.
funniest guy.
No, not that one. That one's harmless.
No, it wasn't so much a fear. It was just that film got into my head, and I went downstairs. And we had cats at the time, and one of them ran right across my foot, and it just freaked me out like no one's business. And I couldn't watch the film for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Mine is actually a funny one. It's a very old one. I can't sleep with an open window because of Salem's Lot. To be closed, the window has to be closed because of Salem's Lot.
Interesting.
where the little kid comes out of the coffin and is floating and looking at his friend in the second floor window? I
Yep.
can't do it anymore.
That was the Lost Boy.
No, that's Salem's Lot. The original, the one from 78.
Yeah. I can't say that he truly affected me that much because my parents might watch. There are things I've done in cornfields that I shouldn't have. It's just, I'm coming from Illinois. They're everywhere. So, I mean, not really scared of dogs. Just don't leave your German Shepherd out in the backyard by itself, please.
There you go. We got another one here, a follow up on our thing we're talking about here from Shady. Pet Sematary was a favorite, but scared him at the same time. I agree. That one was kind of creepy. The little kid Gage, he did a great job of doing the horror scenes in that. For a little 4-year-old kid, he did great.
And this is another one of them ones that it was Pet Sematary, not Pet Sematary 2, and definitely not the remake.
Yes. And also, hello, Johnny Rockstar.
Hi, how you doing? But I mean, yes, the original Pet Sematary held true, I believe, towards the book, and
it did.
That little Gage, he just when they got him and how creepy they got that little kid to be. I'm sorry, you can't. There's nothing. I mean. There was nothing. It was like, how did you teach this kid to do that? I mean, if is it even
after that movie, he starred in one more movie, and then he got out of acting. He was in Kindergarten Cop. He was the little kid that said, "Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina." That's the same little kid in Pet Sematary. So he was a pretty good little actor.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, there were a lot of great actors in the original of this one. Fred Gwynn. Always remembered Fred Gwynn. I think David Keith played the dad.
I believe so. Don't hold me to nothing. Don't have all that up in front of me
Sorry,
right now.
But
there is so many Stephen King movies that have I almost guarantee that there's been every single actor in one of his movies.
The only one I can't think of is Kevin Bacon. I don't think he's ever been in a Stephen King.
No, that one. The one with the kids and the maybe not. That might not have been one of his.
What about At Pupil? Which, I mean, honestly, a lot of people don't realize that's an older Stephen King book that they waited well over a decade to even do a film about it. Because it's weird how it twists up. You got this kid, he's in college. He's studying the Holocaust. Well, he finds out that his neighbor, who is a German immigrant, is actually a Nazi war criminal that has been in hiding for 60, 70 years or whatever. And he confronts him about it. And he's like, look, you tell me stuff that they don't teach us in the books, and I won't tell on you. So he goes into this whole thing. He tells him about it. He starts getting into it. Well, the more and more he learns about the war crimes and this stuff, it starts affecting his head. And then toward the end, he convinces him to be his grandfather while he's meeting with the guidance counselor. And when the guidance counselor calls him out on it, he kills the guidance counselor and then slowly just starts killing people toward the end of the film. And then the cops end up shooting the shit out of him. And it's weird because it's like all the evil in the old man went into the kid. It's a hell of a twist, and nobody would even realize it was even a Stephen King related film at all. There's nothing supernatural. There's absolutely nothing weird about it at all. It's just a thriller movie, and then at the end, there's a twist right there. It totally blows your mind in the last 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Totally underrated too in my mind.
Well,
Go last film that Brad Renfro ever did.
There are a few Stephen King movies that don't have that supernatural feel to them. Running Man's a prime example. The one that everybody forgets as a Stephen King is The Shawshank Redemption. There's nothing supernatural about that movie.
At all. I mean, there's no supernatural. Now, the book, it was a short book, I believe. It wasn't even...
It was 30 pages.
Yeah.
Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, it was just... It was just a short story. I mean, it was... I think that the part that got missed over with the supernatural feel would have just been like the sisters who ended up kind of getting passed over. They just hit on it slightly, but it was that basically they scared the shit out of Dandy for 3/4 of that book.
Yeah. Well, the short story, the supernatural take, because I've actually been able to find it. It's been out of print for like 20 years. But when you find it, the supernatural part is he puts the Rita Hayworth poster on the wall, and after like a couple of years, it falls off, and there's a small hole there, and he starts digging behind that wasn't there before. So that's why it's specifically called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank.
Oh, okay.
But that part is really glossed over because the story in and of itself, Stephen King has always been one of those, he hates to see wrongly accused people, so he made a great story about it. And I thought it was a really good story.
I knew when the movie had come out that it was a Stephen King film, and most of my life I thought, you know what? I bet he was somewhere at a restaurant with some friends, and someone was like, "Oh, congratulations on your new film movie or whatever," and he's like, "Oh, well, thank you. I bet you can't do anything that doesn't have any crazy shit in it." Challenge accepted, and then Shawshank Redemption was born. That's what I kind of always thought. It was like, oh, I'm gonna challenge myself. Here you go. No crazy shit. No Malachi. No corn. No clowns. No crazy dogs coming up out of the ground. It's just this right here. Andy escaping from prison. There you go. Greatest film probably of all time, top 10 ever.
Well, and Johnny Rockstar, he's talk about pictures on the wall. So happy birthday, Johnny Rockstar. And glad to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. So
I don't know if it's been mentioned, but The Fog.
Oh, The Fog was great. That is a great book. The movie was okay. It could have been better, but it was good.
But then I think people forget that because you can't actually see what's going on, they've got to put a lot more thought into their words.
Yeah, it's true. And he said the myth adaptation.
So your imagination puts into the pictures. Your imagination is limitless.
Very true. A lot of people get scared of because their mind starts to wander. Like people are scared of dark because their mind wanders. People are scared of fog because their mind wanders. Plus, it's also great use in movies.
Yeah.
Right. So he's looking in here. If you had to use one or two movies to describe Stephen King to somebody who's never seen him and you want them to see it, what one or two movies would you try and get your friends to watch if they've never seen him before?
Oh.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Definitely The Stand.
Yeah.
Because it will make you think. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of remakes either. I was not a big fan of the remake of The Stand, mainly because I remember going and purchasing all 5 VHS copies of The Stand and sitting there for all day and watching them all day. And then you sit there and you stream the other one episode by episode, and it's just not as good. I mean, who can't remember, MOON? That's how you spell truck. I mean, that just it's that, and then it's the only film where Rob Lowe never says a word unless he's dreaming, which is probably a great Rob Lowe film, and I say that because I like Rob Lowe, but. It, with that, because of how it is, because it's apocalyptic, it's biblical also in a sense. It can make you think, oh, the apocalypse can be here. Oh, look at how much evil can be in the world, or it can even drive you to religious thoughts, even to make you rethink your life. It really, the stand kind of hits you on all kinds of different ways. So that gives you psychological, that gives you horror, that gives you suspense, that gives you a little bit of everything. So that one would definitely be there for that part. The other one, I would probably have to say, oh, what was it? Was it Rose Red? I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah, Rose Red, where they're all stuck in the house and all that. And it's because it kind of gives you a little bit of everything. There's the paranormal part, there's the horror part. Like, it has a little bit of everything, and it's got a lot of it involves a lot of facts. Not about facts as in this is something that happened. This is like, it involves actual legit historical stuff involved with it. And plus he's the pizza delivery guy. Of all things that he could pick to be in that movie, I want to be the guy that delivers the pizza. That's, he's there, he's in, he's out. Those two, I think, would probably deliver the best of what Stephen King can offer as far as anything, whether it's as an author or a director. I think those two would definitely be the ones to do it.
All right, Neil.
Movie wise, for the phobia side that he brings out, I would say it, and that supernatural side, I would have to say the fog.
All righty.
But as an author, I'm not actually too sure. I think Salem's Lot and I think it's Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, the book is much better. The movie's kind of odd.
Yeah, that's a great way for people to learn Stephen King and to never sleep again. Good job, Neil.
I think for me,
that's just the way I like it.
Jeff, I agree with you about The Stand. Definitely The Stand, because I've got the DVD where you can just watch all 6 hours of it at one time. It is a great book. It's a great story. I think the other one that I would do, and it's one that's not heard of a lot, but it was another great miniseries, The Golden Years, is a really good Stephen King. It's more of a love story mixed around a guy who ages backwards. And it's how he's trying to adapt with a 90-year-old brain and a 30-year-old body, and he's fighting off all these people that are trying to study him because of his reverse aging.
That sounds like Benjamin Button.
Kind of.
If you were to end up taking a lot of movies, you'd sit there and be like, that sounds like an adaptation of a Stephen King book. and it doesn't end up being that way.
Right. And I was going to finish up, and then I'll come back to you. Is for the book, since Neil brought that up, it's one of his newer books. The movie was awful. The book was really super good, and that's 11/22/63. Stephen King has a huge fascination with the Kennedy assassination, and he writes an entire story about a guy who's able to finds a room where he can go back in time and influence history, and he tries to stop the Kennedy assassination and ends up finding out that Kennedy needed to die because the world got so much worse. It's a really great book, but the movie was not done very well.
Yep.
I mean, I was just going to bring up The Long Walk.
That's a good book, too.
And see, the title of it doesn't sound interesting in the slightest little bit. Oh, there's a story about somebody just walking along. No, this guy, he's I don't want to call it the Hunger Games kind of thing, but basically children are put into this contest. Basically, they're supposed to walk until they die. And it follows this one kid. I don't think he was supposed to be in it, but ended up doing it. And all of his hallucinations along the way. Yeah, I mean, it's just the nightmarish. You're starving and thirsty. You're dying pretty much of thirst and hunger, and you start seeing
sleep deprivation
and I mean, it's like I say, if you got to read the book. Well, this one, you're gonna get the Cliff Notes. It's what movies are. They're the Cliff Notes. So I mean, if you want to find out what the primary scary things that end up happening, which are all drawn out, which you can only do in a book, to end up making it any good. I mean, like I say, you're going to get the Cliff Notes. Oh, there's a werewolf over there. Okay, well, that's done.
Right. Exactly. That's true.
So, I mean, yeah, it was a great book. I mean, I was surprised, it kept my interest, and I actually read it, which most Stephen King books do. You're like, wow, okay. And it just keeps building up, and it's what Stephen King is best for. You're getting the backstory, and you're like, if you're reading anybody else, it's like, why is there so much backstory to this character? Oh, okay.
Exactly.
It's crazy too how he'll title them up. Like it's. Because you hear Pet Cemetery. Okay, well, this is about a pet cemetery. Okay, Shawshank Redemption. Okay, I don't understand. That's the name of a prison. What is he redeeming? But because it's like, what does the title have to do with it? There's one out there, and it's fairly old, and it's called Dolan's Cadillac. And it's like, oh God, a Cadillac that can, it's like Christine. Like, what is this? And basically, this woman witnesses this gangster who's played by Christian Slater, and he kills a guy. So to keep her from talking in court, he ends up killing her. Well, the woman's husband, he's so distraught with grief and everything, he decides, I'm going to kill the guy myself. Come to find out, and here's where the supernatural part comes in. He can't kill the gangster because his Cadillac is bulletproof. And anytime he's near that car, he's bulletproof. Can't touch him. So he starts drinking. He becomes a binge alcoholic. He ends up losing his job as a teacher, and he starts working for a construction company. And in that process, he puts together a plan to pretty much kill the gangster. And it's technically, in a way, that could be something that would happen in real life to an extent, but it's like Dolan's Cadillac. I don't know what this is about. This could be about anything. Let me check it out anyway. Your curiosity will lead you down a path with a lot of Stephen King novels that's going to turn out to be something great. And even though Dolan's Cadillac was decent, it was mediocre at best, but the fact that, Stephen King, like you said, he doesn't like an injustice. The fact that he gave Christian Slater one last chance at stardom, I mean, that was amazing. That right there, he did it all in one book, one movie, right there.
There you go. There you
If,
go.
if I remember rightly, weren't Christine a Stephen King book?
Yes, Christine's
Yep.
a Stephen King book.
Same
Well,
as
Christine
Silver
was
Bullet.
Cadillac.
It does have thing for.
Old cars.
Oh, I wasn't going to say old cars. Vehicles that come to life also.
Yeah. Between his fear of clowns, being from Maine, and cars.
Well, if you think about it, they always say that the classic cars have got a character of their own.
And they do.
Yeah, but I mean, between
So he just plays on that.
Between an 18-wheeler and a Cadillac and a 58 Plymouth, what car do you think would be the most scary of all?
Maximum.
I mean, honestly, I don't see a Tesla coming alive and trying to kill me. I don't see a Ford Escape trying to kidnap me. If anything, if you want to have an actual real life car trying to kill you, it should be a Toyota. Remember when the Toyotas wouldn't stop?
Yeah.
That's scary in itself. I want to see, Nissan, a Stephen King novel, something like that.
I could see Tesla because it's all electric car. The government hacks in and takes over control, and now you can't get out.
And it just blows up.
And if one of those battery overheats, you have to dunk it in water for 8 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, that's scary enough as it is.
Go ahead, Neil.
And then get electrocuted.
There you go. All right. So you got anything else we need to discuss, Stephen King?
Oh, not Stephen King. We need to get off this. I mean, this ended up being a pretty awesome show here.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it.
Good conversation.
Yeah, it took on as long as it did. I mean, it almost seems like we could go on, but we need to end it.
We got two legitimate, long-winded people in a good way that give you a great story. So there we go.
All right. So
maybe next time actually get Stephen King on here and we can spend an hour just throwing ideas his way.
This would end up being like a 14-hour show if we got Stephen King on here.
What we got next?
Oh, we're gonna end up trying to get Gandalf himself on here. Oh,
I think he passed away.
Storyteller.
But we're gonna start going in. For some reason, I'm stuck on books. I just caught up on a few. We're gonna try and go into Tolkien and like Lord of Rings and Hobbit and stuff like that. Yeah, I see. That's why I was saying we'll have to get Storyteller and maybe even Rambo on here. But I got stuck on them. But one quick one.
If you're stuck on books, you should look for one called The Reaper Man.
Okay. Well-known author. Because, I mean, there's some.
Yeah. He also actually died of Parkinson's about 4 or 5 years ago. Can't remember his name now. To say he's such a weird, I mean, weird write up. It is unbelievable. It's about like vampires that do not suck blood, wailing banshees that don't like using their voice, a agoraphobic boogeyman. Like completely opposite of it. And it's like
I thought it actually froze and he was just stuck.
No, it's all good. Yeah. You're going to be tuning in next week. We got Tolkien, so that's Lord of the Rings and the Priest.
We're going to get into that kind of stuff. We got to get back into fantasy because it's coming up on summertime and DC's got some movies coming out. So we'll start to
Shazam.
revisit some of the superheroes.
Shazam, Wrath of the
All right,
Gods
Mark.
have just came
The
out as
5-year
well.
wait for the Flash.
Yes, that way. And it's not just the Flash. I think they're actually doing Cyborg, and the second Aquaman, I think, is going to be coming out too.
Yep.
No, seriously, it was a 5-year wait because Ezra Miller can't keep his act together. That's all that was.
Fair enough.
You should
So-
you should talk about movies that was horrible because the actors in them suck in real life. That's what you ought to do a show about right there.
There you go. Or just bad movies like Origins Wolverine, which was a pretty bad movie.
They are what they are.
Um,
And that's why you got to get the people to have the discussion between the movies and the comic books, and then you have the nice little drawn out fights.
There you go.
Because most of the movies, well, Wolverine was 6'6", and no, he was not.
Yeah, Green Lantern was great in the comics, but once you put him in the movie, he really ain't shit without the ring. Guess what? Aquaman was great in the movie, but in the comic books, he can't do nothing but call tuna into a can. That's it.
so,
Which is why, if you haven't caught it on HBO Max, go watch The Peacemaker, and at the very end of that series, hopefully they'll come back out with another one. But they actually do get Aquaman and the Flash in there at the end, and they got a nice funny for it.
There you go.
All right. Anyway, next week, Lord of the Rings.
Be there.
See you next time.